Good morning.
Good morning.
It's an early start for us today.
This is novel, isn't it?
I know. Well, is novel the word?
We should start again with our most ADHD things again.
It's Monday, right? It's a Monday morning. We're recording the intros and outros. We never normally record this early in the morning.
No.
But speaking of most ADHD things, again, we're going to start this episode with them because I have left my summer uni project, which I've had the whole entire summer to do until last minute, which means that we've not been organised in getting the intros done for this episode.
No.
And Laura is away today.
Yeah, I'm going to a 40th in Ibiza. And I should have washed my hair yesterday. I could have got my nails done yesterday. I could have done all that stuff yesterday, but I've left it to get it done and then get to the airport. So we're having to squeeze this in between things. But the funniest thing about it is the avoidance and tripping ourselves up. I didn't know that Dawn had a uni project until about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And as soon as I found out, I kept asking you, what is it, Dawn? I look forward to hearing what it is. Can you have a look at what it is and let me know what it is? She didn't tell me. She didn't tell me.
Because I didn't look.
She didn't look. She refused to look. Absolute avoidance. But I must say, it is looking amazing and I can't wait to see the finished product.
But the problem is what I always do is that I've looked at it. I could have taken the simple route and done something simple and easy to do, but of course I want to do a good job, so I've gone for something that's quite complicated and is going to take me a while, and so now it's putting even more pressure on myself to get it done in time, but I will, and it's going to be fucking great.
It will be incredible, as all of your work is. And the thing is as well, we have to work with what we've got. We keep saying that, being honest with ourselves. And if you'd have made it something simple, you wouldn't have been excited about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got to work with what we've got. So you're going to have to deal with our croaky morning voices this morning.
Yeah. Not even through our first cup of tea. Well, coffee actually this morning.
Oh, she's living dangerously.
I'm still on decaf though.
So anyway, enough about us and our ridiculousness. Let's talk about our amazing guest today.
Yes, we have the legendary Idowu, who is the creator of ADHD flashcards. She's been featured in New York Times, Mashable, BBC, Stylist and Metro. And she has an incredible platform called ADHD Adulting.
So Rach is such a ledge and so full of so many pearls that when we started arranging this interview, she just had so many different topics.
Yeah.
Whereas normally we're kind of pick one or it can verge off in a couple of directions. But everything she said was so valuable and so important that we just had to try and cram it all in.
Yeah, and we have.
Yeah. So thank you so much to Rach for letting us know about ADHD and intersectionality, about how ADHD can impact our finances, the research that needs to be done, communicating needs with friends and family,
That's
which is
a big one.
Huge one, and also navigating ADHD in the workplace and how to advocate for yourself. And also about her own ADHD safari.
Yeah.
So this is cram-packed with so much good stuff, and we're so grateful to Rachel. Thank you so much.
I know, thanks. Let's crack on.
Do it.
Yay.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF, ADHD as females, the podcast.
We did it for the acronym.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
Hi, I'm Laura, and we
are
ADHD AF.
AF.
Seriously.
Well, that feels like a lifetime ago.
Doesn't it just?
Since that recording in May 2022, we have been on quite the safari.
Mm-hmm.
We moved to the same street at the same time, at the same age, with the same undiagnosed neurodevelopmental condition. But despite all of the serendipity and the similarities, our ADHD presents completely differently from each other. But make no mistake, it is equally debilitating for us both.
Over the course of season 1, we used our voices to raise awareness, break the stigma, and share our experiences in the hope that they help others. And unbelievably, it worked, leading us to help listeners in almost every country in the world and creating ADHD-AF live events and an online peer support community, for all of which we're so very grateful. Despite all that, we're still just two rebels with a cause, having a blether from a tiny village on the beach in Aberdeen, Scotland. Two pieces of sea glass washed up on the same shore.
Trigger warning. We cover some triggering topics, so please read the description of each episode before listening. We're not medical professionals, therapists or coaches. We're not qualified or even emotionally equipped to offer advice or support. We're only experts by our own experiences, which we share alongside what we discover in these crucial conversations to raise essential ADHD awareness amidst a global crisis. We won't always get it right. We will talk over each other and forget the point mid-sentence. As we continue to unmask, we're attempting to unashamedly own our own too muchness.
We wear leopard print to our events because the leopard is a symbol of Aberdeen. It also symbolises bravery, courage, and the reclaiming of power. Plus, we're a little bit hun.
Yeah.
So that's why it's become the uniform of our leopard print army, our own special camouflage to unite the community.
We're called ADHD as females purely for the acronym ADHD-AF. Get it? Because we both have a juvenile sense of humour. But this is an inclusive space where all genders are so very welcome.
Yes, they are. So join us as we continue to make some serious noise about this misunderstood condition to help others like us alongside raising awareness with a hope to influence systemic change so that those in need can be treated both medically and with the respect they deserve. We continue on this safari because hell hath no fury like two late-diagnosed ADHD women.
ADHD as females, the podcast.
So let's start with a quick fire round. Please tell us your full name.
Hi, I'm Rachel Idowu.
And what is your location?
London, North London specifically.
And your occupation.
I'm currently on a career break, but I was a public servant for a couple of years.
Diagnosis status?
ADHD combined type, over 3 years ago now.
You've just answered it. Late diagnosed. Yeah.
Yeah, late diagnosed.
And was it easy or traumatic?
Chaotic, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Would you say you are predominantly a can't start or can't stop person?
It's very tricky because I have an ADHD combined type. So I'm going to say both. Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both works.
Yeah.
Can't sleep or can't get up?
Can't sleep.
Over emotional or impassive?
Over emotional.
Texting or talking?
Both.
Books or audiobooks?
Audiobooks. Unless it's a comic.
Going out or staying in?
Going out.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
And what is your current hyper focus?
I'm going to say editing videos. Yeah.
And it takes time.
It does. But I just like the weird, funny things you can do with the sound effects and background. So I get super into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All consuming. Right. That is quick fire. Thank you very much.
Great.
So you said you were diagnosed 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We talk about the late diagnosis roller coaster. So the grief cycle, but like it coming and going and all the rest of it. Where would you say you were up to on the late diagnosis roller coaster today?
There. I think I now very accepted it. So the first thing I'd say, and then I'm still learning to kind of understand myself, and I've forgiven myself from the past mistakes I've made. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it taken you a long time to get there?
Oh, for sure. It's taken me, I guess, years now. And I'd say one thing that helped quite a lot was just having the community, the ADHD community, to just know that I'm not alone in this. So it's taken a while, but finally I've got here, and I'd help. Well, part of what I'd love to do is try to help other people get to where I'm at eventually.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
So what has changed for you since... Oh, no, sorry. Start again. What do you feel that undiagnosed ADHD has cost you?
Money. So a lot of money. So there's a term called the ADHD tax, which can be described as the cost associated with, I guess, difficulty managing ADHD traits. So, for example, late cancellation fees, missing a flight and having to pay for another one, taking forever to sort out a dentist appointment, and now you have a big dentist bill because you've got many cavities. So I'd say it's costs. Another thing I'd say is friendship. So I have people that I'm no longer friends with, and that's because I didn't really realize how bad I was at communicating, or just things that, well, now that that really irked people and annoyed people. So like maybe being late, being a bit flaky, and that was kind of like due to my ADHD. I have had some friends who understood, and I still have them now. But I think back then it's difficult for like a lot of people to understand, and I appreciate and understand why we're no longer like friends or close.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting, like it's said that we are like magnets for each other. So like, neurodivergent clustering. Like, do you feel that maybe some of the people that you have lost contact with, that your relationships haven't worked out, that potentially that they might have that going on as well and didn't know? Or
I feel like no, I think it's difficult to say because so when you're, I guess, around people who have ADHD, there's like a lot of understanding. Even if like let's say you both have zero idea you have ADHD, but you know what it feels like to be the person where you're maybe being flaky, you're not feeling it, or you dread something, and so that there comes that level of understanding. So I don't think.
But you think it's probably more likely that they were.
Yeah.
That's why they don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And what do you think has changed for you since diagnosis?
Oh, a lot actually. I think the biggest thing is just understanding myself. Because when there's something, well, I'm not going to say wrong, what I felt was wrong in my brain, and you can't put your finger on it. And so it leads to you getting really frustrated, and you want things to happen and they're not happening, and you're trying to make it happen and it's not. And so like your brain lives in a constant state of chaos. And so now that I know that I have ADHD, it's just like, okay, I know why I'm struggling with this. I either like have a coping strategy or I speak to someone about it, whether it's in the community or now I'm like in therapy. So I think just being able to move forward and not live in a constant state of like frustration has like been really helpful, just knowing that I have ADHD.
Absolutely.
And then also my relationships with people, it's been like better because I'm able to communicate like how I feel, what works best for me and vice versa. So there's like little room for misunderstanding, even though it does happen because we're human. So I think those are like the two big things that's changed for me.
Can I just ask, so you said you're in therapy. Are you speaking to a therapist who's like a neurodivergent expert, or is it something else? Like, do you feel like a lot of your work is predominantly about that, or is it something else?
So funnily enough, no, but this is what happened. So like in the UK, we have the NHS, and they offer like 6 free sessions of therapy to people. And so my GP just kept texting me. It was obviously a mass text, but I think the uptake is really low in my borough. And I was like, why not? It's free. Let me just fill out the questionnaire and see what happens. And then my results came up with like anxiety, with a little bit of depression, but like lots of anxiety. So where I had like a consultation and they suggested CBT. And so I've read up about CBT, and a lot of people in the ADHD community have said, they don't find it helpful. But I'm just like, what do I have to lose? It's like free. It might be helpful.
Yeah.
So now I've done like 3 sessions, and I told the therapist, look, I have ADHD. Some of the homework you're suggesting for me isn't going to work. And she said, she asked me to explain why. And she's actually adapted her techniques to work for me as an ADHDer. And so, so I like one thing I'm going to do when I talk about it, like when the sessions are finished, like maybe suggest, speak to the therapist and tell them what would work for you and like the issues you have as an ADHDer. And if they're a good or well-experienced therapist, they'll be able to kind of like adapt the approach. So even though it's CBT, I find that a lot of like the techniques and strategies help me as an ADHD because I've brought that up to her and said, look, this isn't going to work for me. Yeah. Can you do something that's going to help me address the procrastination? So yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's really great. Really yeah.
So if you could implement change to the diagnostic process, what would it be? And obviously, everyone wants it to be quicker, obviously. But if you could wave a magic wand, do you have something in your mind that you think could be a solution or be helpful?
So, of course, like make it quicker. But I think also, so I know maybe 1 or 2 people, when they were going through the diagnosis process of ADHD, they were assessed for other conditions, which I think it would be helpful at that point, because a lot of times people don't speak about the comorbidities with ADHD, whether that's OCD, Tourette's, dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, or even like a mental health condition like anxiety, because what I'm seeing with a lot of people in my community, it's like, yes, they think that they have ADHD, which they as well could do, but then they mention traits to do with like autism or like OCD. And I think it would benefit like everyone who's going through that process to kind of like assess whether they have other like neurological conditions or mental health conditions. So these solutions that we need to kind of like help make our day-to-day easier will be easily addressed, kind of like all in one. But I know that's like wishful thinking.
Yeah, like I've always thought like, because from my perspective, I went to the doctors at like 14 with an eating disorder.
Oh wow.
Obviously, a comorbidity, one of my lovely comorbidities.
Yeah.
And so like my magic wand would be like anybody that's going to speak to a GP with something that could potentially be a comorbidity, that could be factored in, so it could work both ways, like this, you know, especially in terms of comorbidities that are addictive behaviors, like a compulsion to do something that's like ruining your life in multiple ways, but you can't seem to stop doing it. It would be great for it to be considered, because if that had have been considered, then I would have got help, I don't know, 7 years ago, or however long 14 was.
Years ago for
yeah, you know.
21.
Yeah.
Who are you kidding?
We'll go with that.
It will take.
But yeah, like obviously there's so many different comorbidities, and it's trying to figure out, you know, what's causing what. But I think years and years of undiagnosed means that you've created coping strategies and you've put all these things in place for you to cope.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
like trying to unlearn that.
Yeah. I've recently figured out that I think I'm dyspraxic. Like,
wow. What made you, like, how did you come to that revelation, basically?
Because I've got this whole thing about I've always joked that gravity doesn't work for me. And so like if you put like, I can't trek, like hike or like mountains or anything. I just don't seem to have any balance or coordination, but I do in water. So I worked as a diving instructor, but when I'm actually just stood on land, it's like I'm not supposed to be on land. And it's things like,
she's a mermaid.
It's things like direction, clumsiness, it's things like that. So I think that that's potentially what it might be. But that's that. Actually, this is a perfect time to ask this question. What ADHD cocktail are you? So what lovely comorbidities do you have, if you'd like to share?
Alongside ADHD, so I haven't been diagnosed for this, but I know 100% I have dyscalculia, like 1,000%, like even since school. And
that's numbers. How do you know the percentage?
I just know, like my brain told me it's 100%. That's a good one.
Sorry, I'm just being
it took me a while to get it. I was just like, what do you mean, how do I know? And then I was like, the 100%. See? So I was really bad with numbers growing up. Even like telling the time, but then also instructions. And every time I've like read about like dyscalculia like for quite some time, I'm like, I mean, I definitely have it. I feel like there's no point in me getting diagnosed, because like I've graduated school. There's going to be no accommodations for me anyways. Not to say that people listening shouldn't go ahead and seek assessment if they want to, but I think for me, it's just, okay, great. I feel like I have it. Anxiety, of course, but I'm going to stick with ADHD, anxiety, and dyscalculia for now.
So what is your greatest ADHD struggle? So is there, like, I always say that task paralysis is my kryptonite.
Okay.
Is that kryptonite? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can never know if kryptonite's the bad or the good thing. Kryptonite's the bad thing.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. Well, yeah. Mine is, it has to be procrastination. It's like the bane of my life. I think that has caused like the most issues in like all areas of my life. It has to be procrastination, and it's just so hard, because you could be procrastinating because of fear of failure, just dread, analysis paralysis, anxiety, and it can just stop you from just moving forward in all directions. So yeah, procrastination has to be mine. sadly.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's like you can get to a level of procrastination where you procrastinated for so long that then your self-worth and self-belief is like rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so then
exactly.
that's more of the same, and you can't pick yourself up and get going. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you get your dopamine? What makes you feel good?
What makes me feel good? So one, playing video games. So I grew up playing video games. I think I got my first console, which was like, I think the Sega Mega Drive, when I was like 7 or 8 or something, so super young. And I feel like that's kind of, Sonic, I feel like that's how I kind of like developed the coping strategy of like gamification, because I've just grown up playing video games. And it really helps you to problem solve because you're completing a mission, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I have to complete it. And you try to find different ways to complete it. And then like you challenge yourself to keep on going, which I actually use to like adapt to like my everyday life. So I've got a PS4, so I still play PlayStation. So that's one. Another thing is just being out with friends and people. So I'm an extrovert and I really get my energy from being around people. And that helps with like mental health and stuff. So I'd say those are kind of like the two big things, and just like doing things. And that's my hyperactive side, my on the go ADHD brain that never shuts off. So how about you guys? I'm interested to know.
Mine is definitely going out and being with people and dancing. I like going to clubs. I like loud music, raves, gigs, dancing, people. That would be mine.
Yeah, I mean, music's definitely one of mine. I quite like a game as well.
Nice.
I'm partial. My hyper focus at the moment is Stardew Valley. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like
no, is that a cozy game? Or
yeah,
it's
farm simulation.
That's lots of people are playing it, so it must be good.
It's supposed to be like a cult classic, you know. It's like it was developed and made by one guy completely on his own.
Yeah,
it took him years to do, and he's doing an update for it just now, and it's again taking him years
on his own. Oh, that's so impressive! I should read up on his story.
Nice. Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. But yeah, that probably my thing is organizing.
Yeah.
Like
wow, I'm jealous.
Yeah, but I'm not organized, which is the worst part. It's just I'm constantly strategizing, looking for new ways to organize, plan and organize everything. And I'm just constantly doing it, which stops me from getting things done.
Because it's like the back end of it takes up all of the time than actually the doing of the thing. So as trying to find like the perfect way to do something, and I just want to find the quickest and easiest way and get it done and move on.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's me.
So it can be really detrimental. Like, I'm constantly doing the planning.
And it means that things aren't where you want them to be because they're not at this perfect level of organization and smooth running. But it's funny because I've recently realized that one of my defining characteristics, I would say, and I'm not proud of it at all, there's a lot of shame, is boredom. I get so bored. Everything bores me all of the time. I know
you need some excitement.
I'm constantly in this place of let's do something else. Like that's how I feel all of the time. I'm like itchy all of the time.
I get that.
It's the worst.
So I couldn't even imagine. Like I can only do things if they leap out at me and drag me. So the amount of times my husband's like, you should play a game. I think it would be good for your mental health. Like you could concentrate. So I'm looking at him like, I cannot be bothered to do that. Like I'm not gonna build a farm. No, like I'm so it's so juvenile, because then you've got this whole, only boring people get bored. Find something to occupy.
I don't believe that, No. Yeah, I feel like, so I hate being bored, so I always fill up my time. But because I've been working for like most of my life, it's really hard to work when you have like a high pressured 9 to 5 that requires you to like always be on. And I was in a management position, so I wasn't only looking after my work, but the person that I managed and other people. So after work, I'd like come home and create content, play a game, hang out with friends. And so there was almost like my time was always filled. And now I've been on this, I guess, career break for about like a month and a half. It's just like, oh my gosh, I don't like this feeling of having time on my hands. So now I've just like trying to find things to fill up my time, and I'm probably going back to the workforce soon because I just cannot deal with this boredom.
Yeah, I struggle to be on my own. Like, that's something that I really struggle. Like, if I have a week planned and say it gets to the weekend, I used to end up out on nights out just because it's like, well, I can't sit at home and be on my own because I'd be so bored. So it would be like, right, I'd be going through my phone book looking for anybody that I'm like, who might be up for a night out.
Yeah.
I'm not so bad now. I guess the pandemic probably played a part in that. It's like I've figured out other ways to, you know, entertain myself. But like, yeah, I struggle. It's just like I don't have any plans. I need to make plans. I need to be doing something. There has to be something to do.
Yeah. It's a funny one.
I think a bored me is a dangerous me. I end up doing things like, you know, like cutting my hair, dyeing my hair, buying things that I don't need. Like, I'm dangerous if I've got nothing to do.
That's the worst. The online shopping when I'm bored. It starts with let me just browse, or something. Put stuff in my basket just to excite myself, even though I'm not going to buy it. And then it's like, no, I have to have it. There's like 3 left.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I think online shopping is such funny. We've been doing that this week.
Yeah.
Because we've got something to go to. And like literally the hours. The hours and hours and hours and hours put into like shopping, and then like you end up just buying one thing, but you've spent like
just browsing.
Yeah, it's that choice paralysis and not being able to make a decision, and then when you can't make a decision, you just stop, and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to step away and not buy anything.
But you know absolutely every single option available from every person in the world.
But I think boredom's dangerous. It really is. Like, it's cost me jobs because if I've not got something to do, I'm constantly, in every job I've had, I'm like, can you give me something to do? Because I don't have anything to do. And if you don't, I will sit on my phone. I will do stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing. Yeah. And it gets me into trouble.
Yeah.
It's like I need constant stimulation.
What do you think? So what has brought on your career break? Like, do you have plans? Because obviously you've got a really big and wonderful platform. Like,
Thank you.
Is it so that you can focus more on that? Do you want to tell us a bit about your platform and your work that you're doing in the community?
Yeah, so my career break. So I've been working like non-stop since about 2016. I've like done different careers. So first career was in like finance, lived in the Middle East, then worked in procurement, contract management, and then like policy. So I've done quite a few different things. And so, yeah, it's just been pretty intense, even with the pandemic. But I love working. I love being able to like coach and develop people at work. But I think I got to a point where I was burning out like every 2 weeks, and it just wasn't normal, to the point where like brain fog was constant, fatigue, my brain was almost melting, and it's kind of like I was existing and not living. And so I just told myself, like, I need to take a break and probably switch to a different career, because as you know, ADHDers, we like to do different things. So partly it was one, I just needed a reset, and the second thing is I'm looking to do a career switch into like a tech related field. But also I've been making content alongside of working 9 to 5, and it hasn't been easy. So when I tell people, they're very surprised that I had a full-time job, and it's like, I just do this in my spare time. And so like adulting ADHD was born during the pandemic, because, you know, I got my diagnosis in January 2020, but I had been going through the process since 2018, so it took about 1 year and 6 months to get diagnosed. And when you're diagnosed by the NHS, you get monthly follow-up appointments with the psychiatrist just to see how things are going, especially if you're on medication. So I had 2 of those appointments, and then the pandemic struck and the clinic shut down, and I got a letter in the post saying, well, the clinic is closed, we'll get back to you. So that meant all of my appointments were cancelled, and at that time no one knew I had ADHD apart from my immediate family. So I just started going online to see if there were any communities, and I was like, Twitter should have a few people. So I searched ADHD in the search bar, and there were like loads of people. So I just started randomly tweeting about my journey, but more so asking questions, because I was very, new to it, and people were very generous with their responses. And then I made a Substack newsletter, because the plan was when the clinic starts open again, I would just tell my psychiatrist my experience based on what I was uploading on my newsletter. So I kind of saw it as like an open diary of like what it's like adulting with ADHD, but then also for others to read it because it's going to be informal, not very like proper or factual. And that's how it's just been, and it's grown. And then just started speaking at conferences to companies and just helping people along the way, made the flashcards, and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, tell us about the cards. Tell us.
Yeah, so it's I was kind of in the pandemic, right? I was bored. I started learning a lot more about my ADHD. It became like a massive hyper focus. And again, when you're diagnosed with ADHD, you're not given a manual on how to go and do life. And you kind of like have to figure things out for yourself. And so even though there is like a lot of stuff online, there's podcasts, even like yours, and like lots of resources, I just felt that it was much for me. My brain was getting so overwhelmed. And then I'm thinking, hang on, there are so many people are probably going through this now. Why don't people have like information that's a bit more condensed that people can just read and flick through? And my sister's a med school student and she'd always go through her flashcards. So she'd make notes on flashcards. So I was just like, maybe if I make flashcards to do with ADHD. So I just started designing them on my iPad, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to need a description of the traits that are in the DSM, because again, that's what people are diagnosed with, and that's what's closely linked to ADHD. And then I included some traits like rumination, hyperfocus, RSD, but not only descriptions, some maybe reasons why this is the case, examples of adulthood, because you don't really find that online. I mean, now you do. And then some like coping strategies on how to kind of like manage it that's really tailored to like work, relationship, and like adult life. And then I've done 2 decks because I have ADHD combined type. And then, started, selling them. And like, it's amazing to see how many people it's helped.
Amazing work.
Thanks.
What a brilliant thing to have given people. It really is incredible. Go you.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Take it.
So what do you want the world to know about ADHD? If you could bust a misconception.
Or just anything that you would like, the general world's neurotypical, neurodivergent, whoever, whatever.
So I think for me is that adults can have ADHD. So of course, the research says ADHD starts from childhood. And I think what people don't understand that there is lots of us whose ADHD was missed as a child. And so for like women, it's because I'd say it's due to like the stereotype of like only boys, hyperactive boys having ADHD. Women are like, we're really good at masking our ADHD, so it's not really caught on. Or some women are like misdiagnosed with, let's say, anxiety. And I know people have been misdiagnosed with BPD and other things and not ADHD. And so there are so many of us now who are being diagnosed with ADHD, not because it's a fad or a trend. It's because we've gone all our life struggling with these traits, not knowing how to deal with them, and then coming across something online or speaking to a friend and realizing, hang on, I might have ADHD. And that's what's led to like many women and adults now being diagnosed with ADHD, not because we woke up and just decided we have it, but because we've gone so many years with our ADHD being missed for many reasons.
100% is the lack of awareness prior to now, and then of course social media being this tool to spread information to the masses,
Exactly.
If you're finding this podcast helpful and you're in a position to do so, please join our Patreon peer support community via the link in the blurb of this episode. For unheard bonus and full interview video content and behind the scenes exclusives, including a next guest spoiler and first dibs and discounts on our handmade and ethically created merchandise and apparel, and live events tickets. Also blogs, vlogs, live community Zoom blethers, monthly advice from an ADHD coach, body doubling, and access to our Discord, filled with literally like-minded legends from all around the globe, including ourselves, who totally get it, who you can lean on, learn from, and blether with any time. Because the only people who know what it's like aboard the late ADHD diagnosis rollercoaster are the other passengers.
We've created this platform in order to support ourselves financially, to be able to continue creating ADHD AF and for our podcast to remain ad-free. If you don't have the funds, there are other peer support platforms available. Check out the resources page on ADHDasfemales.com. If you can support us, in turn, you will receive the support of our community, a full circle of support for the leopard print army. We spent our entire lives feeling like aliens, only to discover there's a whole planet of us. So hop aboard the spaceship and join us at patreon.com/ADHDasfemales.
If you would like to support us without joining the community, you can make a donation via our Buy Me a Coffee page, buymeacoffee.com/ADHD as females.
Both of us and the entire ADHD AF community really, really appreciate your support.
We really do. So, what would you like our listeners to know? So, if the floor is yours to share anything and everything you would really like our listeners to know.
Yeah, so I'd say I've been in the advocacy space for like just over 3 years now and met so many amazing people, and lots of people are sharing, some amazing things to do with ADHD. But I think it's important to note that yes, ADHD presents differently and manifests differently in everyone. But I think one thing we are missing is the intersectionality part. So when it comes to race, Black, Asian, and like even Hispanic women are severely underdiagnosed. And so when I read articles like ADHD is overdiagnosed, it's kind of just like, who are you speaking about here? One, it's wrong, and two, all of a sudden, like a lot of us ethnic minorities are now realizing, okay, we might have ADHD, and all of these negative comms are coming out, and that could really dissuade some people who are reading that, especially because there's lots of like stigmas in our communities. A lot of people don't know how to handle it, and there is still a lot of negativity surrounding labeling a child, especially in ethnic communities with ADHD. And so I think there's more awareness and more conversations that need to be had on like the intersectionality part, and then also of class, right? So let's say I was a rich person, I have ADHD, but my parents can get me the best tutors, the best professors, the best therapists. I'm not saying that people won't struggle with ADHD, but when you're a working class person, I'm working class, and you can't afford a therapist, you don't have access to all of these resources, or your teachers don't give you the benefit of the doubt. ADHD is going to impact your life more. And so when people are saying, yeah, ADHD is great, it's a correct, it's a superpower, there are also other people on the other end of the line who don't have that experience because of like, our upbringing. So I think conversations need to be had about, the full picture of what ADHD can be like for everyone, and everyone's experience isn't the same.
I think it's super interesting what you said. The first thing that just came to my mind then was like, with regards to class, if you've got a fee-paying school, would normally have less children in a class.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you've got a classroom full of a load of kids with one teacher, right, then they're less likely to have their struggles even noticed. Like the teacher doesn't have time. The teacher is overstretched to even be able to see if a child is struggling.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother thing that hadn't even occurred to me, on top of the fact that obviously things can be paid for, tutors, etc., and then of course private diagnosis.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And if you look at, okay, so you can have two people who have ADHD, myself as a Black woman, or a white man or a white woman, and we're both struggling with things because of because of like racism and discrimination. I could be painted, oh, she's just being lazy, she doesn't come from a good home, and somebody else could be like, she's been very vulnerable, let's help and support them. Like, people look at people with ADHD differently depending on their background, their race, their upbringing, who they are in society. And I feel like when I see, it's mainly the conferences that I see when they're speaking about ADHD, it just, the speakers, the topics, it just doesn't account for any of these areas of intersectionality. And so I hope we as a community, platform and speak about those issues a lot more, and not just for us, the generation growing up, because we really should be advocates to help, people now, but then the kids growing up, our ADHDs was missed, but it doesn't mean that they have to go, the ADHD has to go unnoticed throughout their lives like ours.
100%. We have talked about this very topic with a few different guests, and I think it was the ADHD babes, it was Vivian, who was talking about
they're great,
the cultural differences within different communities. So for example, religion and a mistrust for doctors because people have been mistreated and things like that. And another element of it, this is definitely something that I can relate to, my mum's Caribbean, is like a pride in education as well. Like, it was not an option for me to not do well at school. I didn't in the end, obviously, but growing up, it was not an option. So I would have friends that perhaps didn't get brilliant grades, but it was like, oh, well, you did your best. That's all right.
Yeah.
That wasn't like that for me. My mum, it was very important that I did well at school. It was pressure.
Yeah, but you say you didn't do well, but I think in relativity, like you still stayed on at school and finished and then went to university.
No, later I went back.
Okay.
Yeah, I went back as a mature student.
But
yeah,
you finished school.
I did my GCSEs. I didn't do my A-levels. I left school and went to work in a shop at 16.
Things.
Yeah. I went back to do what you can call it, an access course, which is 1 year instead of A-levels. I did that at 20 and I went to university after that, 21.
There you go.
So I dropped out of school after my GCSEs.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same. And it's not because I didn't want to either. That was the thing. It was just like I just knew that I couldn't do it.
Yeah. It was a huge amounts of pressure on one hand, and then on the other, it was being able to motivate myself and being able to concentrate. I just could never do it.
Honestly, that's why I play video games. So I had, for most of my course, so I studied international business as a major and did like Spanish for 3 years. But I had like a lot of coursework, luckily, and coursework you take away. So what I do in like my dorm room or wherever I was, I would like write a paragraph and then I would take a break and be like, well, if I finish this paragraph, I will play another game. So complete another mission. Once I've completed that mission, I'd go back. So that's why I had to use to motivate myself. Just so many things. And of course, the adrenaline of doing things to the last minute. But without those coping strategies, I would not have gotten through university. And I also got lucky because I did study abroad years. I didn't go to like a great university. No offense, whoever finds out my university, but back then they had the Erasmus programs, and for one of my years my grades didn't count. I was like, this is music to my ears, because I definitely would not have done so well in this year. So yeah
Absolutely. Is there any more that you want to say about that? I know that you talked about communicating needs to friends and family, because that's something that a lot of, we have that a lot. I'm being really inarticulate now. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. So men with girlfriends, people, mainly Black people, who struggle to kind of like, one, tell their parents they have ADHD or they think they might have ADHD, and to kind of explain, explaining the rationale for like decisions made or certain behaviors or things they struggle with. And they say a lot of things that happen when they try to do that is they get told they're lazy, or they're just making an excuse, or they're brushed off, or they're made to feel like less than. And it can be really challenging and very isolating. And so I think what I will say to people who is like first considering whether or not to tell your parents, who may or not be accepting as to whether you have ADHD, is one, like make sure you have a community, because of course you don't know what you don't know what to expect from them. But if it's going to be negative, having a community there to kind of like pick you up and to help guide you through that situation can be like so instrumental. And two, if they are, negative about like your ADHD diagnosis or thinking you have ADHD, you're not stupid, you're not lazy, just because they've said these words, like, please don't accept them. Having ADHD isn't a death sentence. It's just that our brain works differently. And for some people, their parents understand it over time. You can show them resources and they'll get it. And for some people, their parents just don't want to hear it. And it is very tough. And that's why I think having a community, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, wherever, can be like very useful. And then some people, I tweeted the other day that there's like a girl, she's Nigerian as well, and her mom just said she doesn't understand this ADHD thing and how it's not real. I had given her my flashcards. I was like, just give her this to like read and see what she says. It might not like stick in her head there, but reading word to see that it is a thing and you haven't made this up can hopefully like warm her up to the idea, or to get like a basic understanding of what ADHD is and what you are struggling with and what she could help you with. So yeah, don't be too down on yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the many reasons why it's so incredibly unhelpful, to the point of being dangerous, when we have ableist media news reports.
100%.
Because then you're speaking to people, you're putting people off, you're giving you're giving fuel to the fire of people who want to be naysayers, who you're just fueling ableism. Yeah.
And that's it. And I think as well, it's like about never kind of stopping to understand yourself, to try and understand what ADHD is and how it affects you, because the more you understand yourself, the easier it is to convey this to other people
communicate
and
that.
to communicate
Yeah.
and for them to understand. Self-understanding brings
Yeah.
so much more because it offers a way for you to be able to explain yourself better to people
Yeah.
when you understand what's happening within yourself.
Yeah, it's like exactly like you say with the community, because when you can
Yeah.
see what other people are airing, what other people are experiencing, then that sort of, not that you would need permission, but within yourself to go, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not just me,
Yeah.
and actually face the things that you would otherwise be ashamed or turned away from because you've been trying to hide them and just cope, you know?
Yeah.
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 And it's being open to learning new things about yourself that you maybe didn't know, or you always
Yeah.
like, because we can all get stuck in that thought pattern of it's just the way I am. It's just the way I am.
Yeah.
It's just the way I am.
100%.
And when you're in that place, it's really difficult to change and adapt to new ways of thinking. But if you can kind of open your mind up a little bit to accept that, well, maybe it is the way you are because of this learnt, you know,
Yeah.
what you've learned over the years or your coping mechanisms over the years, but you can change the way you cope with certain situations.
So
100%.
Yeah, and that's something
Yeah.
like I've really learned over the last little while.
Yeah.
Me too. And I think it requires a level of, I guess, self-assessment and like honesty. And this is not to beat yourself up or to like put yourself in a stand and judge yourself for every like wrong thing or mistakes you've made. Like we're all human, but it's just like, for me, especially the people that matter in my life, I'm like, okay, so what could I do? Okay, knowing that I have ADHD and I could work on things, not only what can they do to accommodate, but maybe there's something I could do to maybe explain things better or try to like be a better communicator or just give them a heads up. Okay, I'm not feeling great. I'll probably message you in a week from now, just in case you don't hear from me. I'm still alive. Just, little things like that. And I think that's part of life and the friendships. And it's for me, it's not too much for me to do. Like I know everyone has a different level of capacity, but I think the level of kind of like respect and love I'd expect from my friends, I try to give it where I can. And I think that stops me from like not losing friends and having really like healthy relationships.
Yeah.
And
Because we all have a responsibility to the people in our lives. A relationship is a two-way street, but so it's not about the world bending for us, or we have this diagnosis and so you have to help us XYZ. It's like to be able to communicate what your needs are, to be able to say what you're able to do, and to have the compassion that if things go awry, it's not that you are the most awful person in the world or you don't care, etc. It's that this is how ADHD has tripped me up, but taking responsibility and working through it with compassion and understanding.
Yeah. And I think just with that is also like ADHD medication. So I started meds today. I got diagnosed and it's a bit of a trial and error period, but I know a lot of people think and have told me, oh, does ADHD meds change your life? Once you take it, are you completely perfect? Are things easy? And I would say I found the meds that work for me. And so, yes, things are a lot easier, but it still does require you to do some work, someone learning to maybe break habits and to actually do that bit of self-assessment and actually take actionable steps to kind of enable you to manage your day-to-day, basically. So ADHD meds is not like this magic cure, and for some people it doesn't work, for some people it does work, but they still require you to do some like work on your part to kind of like maintain relationships, manage your ADHD traits. But yes, it does make it easier for me to kind of just start doing that.
Yeah, 100%. So finally, you had mentioned navigating ADHD in the workplace, including how to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, so a lot of the talks I do at companies, it's basically how to make a workplace more inclusive for people with ADHD, but also neurodivergent employees. And again, it's a two-way street, but I feel like in this case, your employer definitely has to do a lot more to accommodate you as an employee, because I believe they have a duty of care.
Yeah.
And so I say the one thing is knowing what your kind of like your rights are as like an employee or as somebody going to an interview. So a lot of people don't know that some companies have signed up to the government. I can't remember, there's like a government scheme, a disability scheme, basically disability confident employers where when you're going through the process, and let's say you have a question or a presentation to do, you can ask the employer, can you send me the presentation question a few days in advance, or questions a few days in advance, or can I have more time to answer this or complete this exercise? And some employers should be, and most of them do, accommodate that as someone who is like neurodivergent. So that's one thing. The second thing is I get asked is, what accommodations can I get when I'm in a workplace?
Yeah.
So most employers should be able to provide reasonable accommodations based on like your needs. Others, if it's a smaller company, they could like struggle depending on what you need. But I think you should definitely feel confident if you're able to tell your employer, look, this is what I struggle with. I have this. Will you be able to help me in these areas? And when you help me with these areas, this will enable me to do this better, or this will make it easier for me to do this and X, Y, Z. And some employers don't get it, like, because you might be the first person that comes out to them and asks them for a reasonable adjustment. Because a lot of people don't want to tell their employers that they have ADHD.
Yeah.
And so I get that, because one, there has been some people who told their employees that they have ADHD and they feel like they've been treated differently. That basically changes the tone, and they're treated like a burden. On the other hand, in order for you to get some support, you might have to tell your employer, look, I have ADHD, so they can provide those accommodations. So it can be a catch-22, but I'd say before you disclose that, kind of assess whether you feel like comfortable telling your employer, your manager, that you do have ADHD. And then second of all, kind of like how you want them to support you now that you've told them. So in my case, I waited a year and a half before I told my manager I had ADHD, because I said, well, I'm going to pass my performance review, and if I get a good score, that's when I would tell them, because they can't really use my ADHD against me.
Yeah.
My manager wasn't like that at all, but it's just to be on the safe side. And yeah, they were like amazing with like any support that I needed. In the UK, there's also access to work where you could potentially get an ADHD coach, and, you know, all of these different support mechanisms. But I think the first thing is to kind of assess whether you would feel comfortable sharing that with the manager you have, because not all workplaces are like happy-go-lucky. Some can be a bit hostile, and if you do volunteer that email and that information, like, how is that going to kind of like, are you going to get backlash? Is it going to be difficult? And it's sad that we have to kind of like think about these things, but that was definitely in the back of my mind when I was considering making those decisions. And not everyone can afford to just leave a workplace if like their employer isn't great. So it's worth considering.
Yeah. So 100%. So again, it is a case of being able to look inwardly and identify what your needs would be, to then convey it, because it's going to be on an individual basis, and ways that you know ADHD uniquely shows up that makes different aspects of your job hard to then communicate that.
Exactly that, because I could send you a list, like, can you ask them to start the meeting 5 minutes past the hour? Can you get like a quiet workspace? Can you do this? But it might not really be relevant for the place you're working in. So exactly what you said, it could be very job specific, and not, if it's kind of like, if basically this could help me do this task better or this job better. And it's the struggles are kind of like unique to the role that an individual is in.
100%.
That's it. So it's a little bit of self-assessment, looking at yourself, looking at where you struggle, looking at what could help you,
and the environment,
and bring out your strengths as well.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it's not just about what you struggle with, it's what. So in my workplace, it's like I kind of like the fast-paced nature of it. I love speaking to people. I love helping out. So I basically said, if you can like extend the deadline on this, I'll be able to do a lot more of this thing that I'm already doing. That's really great. So it could be things that can help bring out your strengths more and help you play to your strengths, not only things that you struggle with.
So that's loads of things. Thank you. That's really, really a lot of really amazing stuff for our listeners to take away. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's
Where
amazing.
can they find you online if they want to come find you?
Okay, so I go by Adulting ADHD on Twitter and Instagram. On my Substack is adultingadhd.substack.com, and I'm now on YouTube as Adulting ADHD. So yeah,
Wonderful. And what about the cards? Are they available somewhere for people to buy?
yes, you can find them. Good, I was going to forget that. ADHDtraits.com for the ADHD flashcards.
Wonderful. That's fantastic.
Amazing.
So, what is your win of the week? Tell us something
Positive.
Oh, my win. I've done some studying this week. So I'm looking to career switch. So I'm like studying for like the Amazon cloud computing certification. But yeah, managed to get a lot of studying done. So that's my one win.
Wicked.
Yay,
And
amazing.
have you done that by doing your like reward system, like you said? Like, I'll crack on for this long.
All of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, The Witcher came out this week. Was it last week? So I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this module. And then when I finish this module, another episode of The Witcher.
Yeah.
So just things like that.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Good stuff.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. And our infamous question, what is the most ADHD thing you have done this week?
So this week, I forgot that I was meant to meet up with someone, and an hour before I was just like, it's like really bad timing. Can we do another week? But I didn't tell them I forgot. You're not listening. Oh yeah, it's so bad. I'm not like a liar, but it's just it's the ADHD. Like I just couldn't tell.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Well, it has been lovely speaking to you.
Yeah, honestly, thank you
Likewise.
so much for all of those pearls and for your time. And all the best with your career break and everything.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you ever so much.
Bye.
Bye.
What a ledge.
Honestly, thank you. We just can't say thank you enough for all of that and the amazing work that she's doing. The flashcards is a genius idea.
Yeah,
it
it's so
really is
clever.
brilliant. So clever.
And the fact that that's helping not just people with ADHD, but helping people communicate
yeah,
to family and
raise
friends.
awareness.
And,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really incredible. I do think it's such an interesting, like, obviously, before we dived into the topic and Rachel emailed over this idea about workplace, I wasn't expecting what she said, actually.
Yeah.
You know, she conveyed that actually she was very nervous about telling her boss. And that just demonstrates the stigma for her to even go ahead and say, well, you know, you have to size up whether that is a safe environment to do that. And it just goes to show how fucked it is.
Yeah, that's it.
That, you know, you could have a registered disability and perhaps not feel like it's right to communicate that in your place of work where you go every day. It's appalling.
And that's it. And if we need accommodations for us to be able to do our job to the best of our ability, but we don't feel safe enough to tell people that we need those accommodations, then it's just further hurdles that you have to like run into, essentially.
Yeah. And in our last live blether with the community, we had 2 people in that chat that were both basically being bullied in the workplace. Yeah. Having communicated that they have ADHD, still getting bawled out for forgetting things, literally being shown up in front of people for the things they were doing wrong. And they were both, you know, really suffering.
And both of them are now essentially being forced out of their workplaces to find new jobs because they cannot continue to work in the environment that they're in because it's just
toxic and not supportive of their needs. It's appalling. So we sort of took that, and we've got an amazing ADHD coach going to give us some more information about that in our community, in our monthly ADHD coach community info. Haven't thought of a name for it, so there you go, have that. But the other thing I think is super interesting to note is about appearances and assumptions, right?
Appearances, assumptions, and communication.
Yeah, like we'd literally been talking for a year, but on such a hamster wheel of running, trying to do the next thing. Like you knew that I went to university.
Yes.
But you assumed that I went straight through school and went to university.
I made the assumption because you went to uni that you just left school and went to uni because that's what the norm, is.
And the thing is, it's funny because it's actually such a traumatic period of my life.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally where everything kind of went massively tits up for me. You know, there was one thing with my strict education-driven mother that I was not allowed to do, and I did the thing.
Yeah.
And it broke her heart. And eventually, 4 years later, I went back to college to do a year course to get into university because I couldn't live with the guilt, and did a degree that she would have wanted me to do. And again, obviously didn't do well because you just can't. I didn't know I had ADHD. I didn't know why I couldn't concentrate or stick to deadlines or anything else.
Yeah.
And
it
went
wasn't
tits up
really
anyway.
what you wanted to do.
It wasn't what I wanted to do. So how was I
Exactly.
going to do well? Anyway,
Yeah.
it's so funny because we do it so often. It's like how something appears, we can make assumptions. And yeah, you only see what's on the surface level.
Yeah.
You can't ever make
and
assumptions.
that goes for so many things because
Yeah.
we all do it. We all perceive things, and it's the same way. It goes two ways,
Yeah.
you know, because you assume that people are perceiving you a certain way as
Yeah.
well, but they're not seeing the whole story.
Yeah.
So it is all about communicating,
Yeah.
and that goes in two ways as well. It's about communicating yourself, but
Yeah.
also being able to ask questions
Yeah.
instead of making assumptions.
Yeah, don't just take things at face value. Like, for example, right, going up to Ibiza today, I cannot afford to go. I'm going on a day that I wasn't planning on going just because that's the only day I could afford the flight.
Yeah.
I've got a hand luggage, which I've managed to squeeze 2 pairs of shoes into and wrap everything up in a little ball, like, what is it, Huckleberry Finn or something? Like, I'm literally...
Laura's packing cracks me up, but she does it. And she smashes it every
I
time.
managed to get it in because I can't afford to then have the luggage on top because it's always 2 flights, Aberdeen, London, London, Ibiza.
Yeah.
So it's so funny, but it looks like I'm super flash jetting off. I'm literally on the bones of my arse, but it's
Yeah.
funny, isn't it?
Well, that's it. And like I say, it's the same with social media.
Yeah,
Is it-
highlights reel. I saw Sophia Hilton, again, if you've not heard that episode, you need to listen to that episode. I
Yeah.
can't remember which one it is. She posted a thing yesterday that said, you know my social media, but you do not know my life.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
It's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And yeah, it's very easy for people to make assumptions. But if you're going to judge someone, maybe find out a little bit more about them
Or
first.
just don't judge.
Or
Or just assume that we're all ADHD AF, so we
Yeah.
can have had similar experiences.
keep your judgments to yourself.
And I think, yeah, especially, I suppose, when people are struggling, it's difficult because you will always feel, if you're hurting, you'll assume that you have it worse than others.
Yeah,
Do you know
of
what I
course,
mean?
of
You're
course,
not going to be
because
like, yeah.
When you're in your struggles, like that's the worst
That's,
place.
yeah, exactly that. So, yeah, most ADHD things are done, but we've got some great ones, haven't we?
We do.
Thank you for sending those in. We literally love reading them. And I
do.
love the fact that it's working. People are talking to each other each
Yeah.
week and making connections.
There are so many, and yeah, it's the shame eradication part because there's so many that you read, and it's like, oh, I've done so many similar things like
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
it just makes you feel safe in the knowledge I'm not the only one that does these things.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I have a great one here. These are from our social media. I drove to the vets on Friday to get my cat's booster shots. I even remembered the vaccination cards, which is good because I never do. Totally forgot to put the blooming cats in the car though.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. Can you imagine?
That's so funny. Slightly crucial, that bit.
Yeah, a little bit. And then there's another couple of little ones here. I paid at the McDonald's drive-thru and then drove halfway home. I forgot to stop at the next window to get my food.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. That's devastating. That is devastating.
That is devastating. I hope
would
they went
be
back.
so sad if I didn't get my Mackie D's.
I hope they go back. I hope they go back. Yeah, he would have had to. And this last one on the social meds is spent more money than sensible on a bottle of brandy as a gift for someone who drinks sherry.
Oh, gutted. Gutted. I've got one.
From the community.
This is from the community, yeah. I got in from the shop and was putting things away and went to put the door keys in the cutlery drawer and caught myself. Wow, I thought, get you. You nearly put them somewhere you couldn't find them and you realised, well done. Half an hour later, needed the keys for the garage and could not find them anywhere. Bring on the annoying 5 times a day rigmarole of finding them. They were in a plant pot on my windowsill. Having caught myself putting them in the cutlery drawer, my brain had clearly decided a better place to put them would be in the plant pot.
Obviously.
Honestly, the struggle is real. I know that one only too well. The finding of things is literally the bane of my life.
It's when you do something, catch yourself doing it and think, oh, look at me. I'm so good for catching myself doing it. And then immediately go and do it again.
Go and do it again. Is that 100% relapse rate that Kate Osborne was talking about? And thank you, everyone, for all of the amazing feedback about that episode.
Yeah.
It really was a special one. They've all been amazing, actually.
I know. Like
not as in I'm saying we're amazing. I'm saying our guests have been amazing.
Yeah. It's been an exciting season 2 so far, and
there's loads.
It's
going to
continue. It's going to continue to be exciting.
Yeah. Thank you so much to Rach.
Yes.
And is there anything else to say? Thank you to our community members for keeping us going.
Yes.
It is literally your membership that makes it possible that we can even make this happen. So you really are making such a difference. And we love chatting to you in the community.
Absolutely.
And thank you to those that have bought tickets to come to the live events in December. I'm still not putting any graphics on the grid because even though I mentioned the C word, there's no way I'm putting anything like that on the grid until after Halloween. I cannot
the rule.
do it.
It's the law. It's the unwritten law. No Christmas until Halloween is done.
It.
Oh, shh. No. Till after Halloween.
Yeah, none of that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much again to Rach.
Yes. And have a good holiday.
Thank you very much, and good luck with the rest of your project. And I can't wait to see the finished finished
Neither can I.
item.
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, I am doing 3D design. So our summer project was to create an object from another object in our house and make an identical copy using only paper and adhesive.
It's incredible.
And I've chosen something way more complicated. I should have just picked up a fork or something random. But no. I've got this Moroccan lamp thing with...
Honestly, it's incredible. You're so talented, and it's so worth it. I would never think of that.
I wish I hadn't, to be honest.
You'll be proud of it when it's done. So let's crack on. Get it done.
Yeah, I will. Right, have a great holiday, and we will see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF, ADHD as females, the podcast.
We did it for the acronyms.